Well, I hope you guys are ready to swallow up yet another heaping bowl of bullshit from the Offended Squad, the squad of people who travel around the internet finding things to be offended by. This is, of course, from BuzzFeed, one of the toilets of the internet where this SJW bullshit goes to congeal into a nasty paste-like substance that scares all but the bravest people away. The title of this article, or this comic, What Cis People Say to Trans People versus What We Hear. So we're going to listen to some transgender whiners. I like transgender people. I've known many. None of the trans people I've ever met would get behind this comic, and in fact probably view it as detrimental towards their acceptance.
And I personally have countless black and gay friends, which of course means that A, I cannot be racist or homophobic, and B, I can speak for all of them, for I am a mind reader. Gays don't really want equal marriage, and people of colour don't really think that police brutality is an issue. For I, a white heterosexual minister, am going to tell you what these marginalised groups really want. Jesus. Putting satire aside, I mean seriously, whenever I hear someone going, whoa there now, I have friends that are X, as their opening disclaimer, all the little red flags start going up. I know I eviscerated your deliberate cropping of statistics when it came to the wage gap, which, by the way, you never told your viewers you lied about, but this is a new low, even for you. To be using word for word the very same arguments put forward by racist and homophobic ministers in the US, it's not a good sign. I half expect you to say, I love trans people, but God just wants them to stop existing.
But for some reason, you know, these fucking cunt bags on BuzzFeed and other, you know, social media platforms like Tumblr and Twitter, you know, they propagate this bullshit like, oh, you got to be careful of every single thing you say to a trans person. You know, don't you guys see how that just puts everyone on edge? Don't you see how, you know, you're just giving everyone a giant stumbling block? I mean, look, the unreasonableness of the standards I'm about to show you is just fucking mind-blowing.
Of course, because you are a shining example of what reason is, and in no way harm the secular movement with practically every single video you produce. So why don't we just all bow down to you, O wise overlord of tenets? If you truly cannot tell, I am being facetious, as it's the only way I can actually make it through one of your videos. I expect this kind of level from theists, but not from members of the secular community. There, I expect better.
All right, so the premise of the comic is that there's this device called the Translator 3000. Translates cis sexist BS. Amazing technology. All right. So here is the translator at work. Here's the first panel of this piece of shit comic. Two dudes at a bar. One is trans. The one on the right is trans. Oh, you're trans, but you look so good. Translation: trans people are ugly. Yeah, much in the same way that if you go up to someone and, you know, compliment their pants, you obviously must be insulting their shirt. I mean, come on. Someone walks up to you and says, oh, you look good. Your response is, oh, he thinks trans people are ugly. He just said you look good, you stupid fuck. You're trans. You look good. The person just told you you fucking look good. And your response is, he's saying trans people are ugly. He just said you look good. You stupid, stupid fuck. You can't even get paid a fucking compliment without turning it into an insult. Jesus.
The fact that this either confuses you or you understand perfectly what the issue is but resort to a straw man is comical. The issue is not someone saying you look good. It's the added backhand, the unnecessary but. There are such things as backhanded compliments. Oh, you're an atheist, but you seem so happy and not at all aggressive. Or, oh, you're black, but you seem like such a law-abiding citizen. Why not just drop the bullshit and say, you look nice? Why do you need to assert via the usage of but that whichever demographic said person comes from is typically undesirable? Literally, saying less is better. Using less effort is the way to go. You are the one complaining about the fact that a backhanded comment which takes more effort does not go unchallenged. Why? So again, this is either a deliberate straw man of the original position, or you really needed to think more before opening your mouth. Why are you so against thinking? Just be considerate with what you say and learn from the mistakes you make or the mistakes of others. This comic isn't intended to have you burnt at the stake. Just educate those who don't realize what they are saying. Let's put it in another scenario. A job application at a modeling agency. A black person, a gay person, and a trans individual each apply. During their interview, the interviewee asks the black man, "You have no criminal record? But you're black." The gay person, "You are in a monogamous relationship? But you're gay." And the trans person, "You've previous work experience at a modeling agency? But you're trans." Just remove the "but," as that is a challenge to said person's associated demographic. Removing that solves the issue.
All right, two people at a grocery store, guy and a girl. The girl is trans. "I've never met a trans person before." And that translates to, "I assume I can identify any trans person." Yeah, that's what the fuck he meant. That's what he meant. When he said, "I've never met a trans person," he was saying, "I assume I can identify any trans person." Yeah, or let me just, is it possible that maybe he just meant that he'd never met someone who was openly trans before? I mean, or maybe it just never occurred to him that other people he'd met might be trans? I mean, Jesus. Like, if you're cisgender, just do all the trans people who get behind this sort of bullshit, just do them a favor and just sew your fucking mouth shut. Because there's literally nothing you can say that they won't take offense to.
And here's the really funny part. This point does not originate in the trans community. It originates in the gay and bisexual community. But I've never seen you discuss it in their talk about it. Why not? Why just target the trans community? Yes, the individual may not have realized what they are saying, but that doesn't make it any less accurate. Hence we are discussing it. If they said, "You are the first openly trans person I have ever met," there would be no issue. With the gay and bisexual community, the assumption was made that every gay man would be camp, every lesbian butch, and every bisexual would be a sex-crazed monster. That's why it was insulting to them. To trans individuals, it is insulting because, as noted, it suggests that there is a look of transness, as opposed to a wide array of appearances. Again, the comic was supposed to educate people as to exactly what you just said. So, well done in proving that it is doing its job, as it can even get TJ to think on new horizons. I am truly awed by this comic's ability to get you to think critically, as I have yet to see that in your work.
All right, so guy and a girl again, girl's trans. Guy says, "I would date a trans person." The translation of that is, "Trans people are usually undateable, so I deserve a prize." He just said he would date a trans person, and your translation is that trans people are undateable? What? That's the exact opposite of what he said. What prize did he say he deserved? He said, I would date a trans person. How the fuck is that offensive? You're going to literally say that someone saying, yeah, I'd date someone who was trans. You're going to say that that is fucking transphobic. You know what transphobic is? Transphobic is those fucking tranny freaks all need to fucking die. That's transphobia. I would date a trans person is not transphobia, you fucking imbeciles. My fucking God, which happens to be me.
Why, when you do your commentary, are you removing qualifying words which exist in the original comment? I mean, you quote the comment word for word, but then when you go back to it to do your commentary, you remove bits. E.g., trans people are usually undateable, not trans people are undateable, period. Hence the conclusion of, I deserve a prize because I'm so frigging special and cannot go about my life just dating whoever I date. I need people to know how inclusive I am at every opportunity to stroke my ego. Also note who they are talking to, as that is relevant. They're not defending the thought that trans people are human beings, as Mr. Minister attacks them. They're going up to trans individuals or an ally and going, hey, look at me, I'm so progressive, which is looking for an ego stroke. Why would that come up in conversation with a trans person or an ally unless they felt the need to validate their participation, like a white person going up to a black person or an ally? I would date a black person. Again, when defending against racists, maybe that would have some relevance. But when talking to a black person or an ally, what's your point other than trying to bolster your ego? I'm asking genuinely. When other than antagonizing a racist, would it ever be appropriate to go up to, say, a Black Lives Matter protester and say, I would so date a black person? So again, less effort is better.
You look just like a real woman, says one girl to another girl. Translation, trans women aren't really women. You know, that was implied. You know, couldn't that just be a careless choice of fucking words?
Yes, that is the entire point of the comic, to display the actual meanings behind these frequent and rather careless phrases to educate people as to how they sound, even if the intended meaning was different. It does not seek to ban speech. It does not seek to incarcerate those who slip up or burn them at the stake. It is simply trying to explain how these things sound from this side of the fence. Well done.
Don't you think maybe when they say you look just like a real woman, I mean, I can see how that might stick in your craw a little, but is it really worth fucking making a comic about? Don't you see that that was not the fucking intent? Isn't it fucking patently obvious that what they're saying is that you're passing? You're passing. This is a fucking, the trans people talk with each other about, you know, passing. The criteria is, have I reached the point in my transition, and some trans people never reach this point, by the way, where I am totally convincing as the sex that I feel I am. When I've reached that point, so the trans people talk about this. Trans people talk about looking like a real woman. Don't you think real is, couldn't you just substitute real for biological? Or, you know, like you look like you are someone of the female sex, not someone of the male sex, but with a female brain who is making a transition? I mean, isn't that a more reasonable and more deferential fucking explanation? My God.
And here we see your greater ignorance come into play. Passing, when discussed by trans people, is about security, safety, not being raped and beaten and left to die in the streets. It is not about meeting your gender demands on appearance. If you had so many trans friends, this would have been the first thing you should have asked them. The usage of the word real does attempt to invalidate a trans person's identity. Whether intentional or not, that is what it does. That is why this comic was written, to educate people so that they can improve their abilities in social interaction when dealing with trans individuals. That is what you are complaining about, us teaching people about their carelessness and how it affects others. Fact is, there are many people who argue that trans women are not real women and that trans men are not real men. This action justifies their views, whether that is the intended purpose or not. It's just like liberal Christians saying how homosexuality is still a sin, but we don't care about it that much, still justifies the actions of conservative Christians and the gay ostrich institutions where a person goes to learn how to bury their head in the sand, as it's the only way they can keep their family and community. The exact same thing. You may not intend the harm, but the harm is there. We're not having a go at you. We're just trying to teach you what you're actually saying.
Okay, there's a girl and a guy. Guy's trans. Girl says, "I'm glad you're being honest with me about being trans." The translation is, "Trans people who don't tell me they're trans are deceivers and liars." Yeah, that is totally not the translation. Just like, imagine that I was dating someone and I had a dark secret, like in my past, like I'd accidentally killed someone. It was manslaughter, through my own negligence, I did that. And I tell them about this. I say, a few years back, I was in this accident. I was at fault. Someone died. It was a very dark time in my life. And they say, "I'm glad you could be open and honest with me about that." Would the translation for them saying, "I'm glad you could be open and honest about that," would the translation of that be, "Everyone needs to tell me all their secrets at all times"? Like, you're taking what is essentially a nice, supportive comment from somebody and turning it into a fucking insult. I mean, don't you see that at that point, you're going out of your way to be fucking offended by something?
Except a person is not responsible in any way for being trans. Even your counter-analogy consolidated the very thing the initial post noted. You just proved the point. The use of honest suggests the opposite of dishonest. When you say this action was honest, you are saying the absence of this action is dishonest by default. Why not say, "Thanks for trusting me with this. I know it must still be hard to talk to people about this today." The use of trust as opposed to honesty is such a basic one, but has massive implications. Why? Because there are groups out there, particularly in America, who are pumping out propaganda like the bathroom meme, i.e. that trans women are not really women, they are just men who use their dishonest infiltration to rape and assault cis women. This is an actual issue we have to deal with, and being careless about your language can lead to people who hold such views feeling validated, and trans individuals who are still a little unsure about themselves feeling invalidated. When you talk about honesty and dishonesty, you are talking about, it's your duty to tell me, because we see honesty as a duty. Therefore, if you are honest with me, that was what you should have done. Not necessarily trust, because you trust me on your grounds, as opposed to honesty, I demand honesty. Do you understand the power dynamic there? Again, this is not calling for extreme actions against those who are saying such things, so why the freak out on your part? This is a piece meant to educate. Why don't you start acknowledging that fact and get on with it?
All right, two dudes. I love trans people. Translation, I fetishize trans people. what is with it? First of all, not necessarily the same thing. But even if that is the case, even if you're fetishizing trans people, what is the problem? Everyone has fetishes. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fucking preference. Like, if you have a fetish for, like, really big butts, which I fucking do, and you date someone with, you fucking seek out someone with a really big butt. Who cares if you know, it doesn't diminish your identity or your transness because someone fucking fetishizes that aspect of you. I mean, this is the same thing you hear from these fat women and shit that, you know, some guy fetishizes them, like, I'm being fetishized. Like, goddamn, just be glad someone wants to fuck you, for fuck's sake. Jesus.
Just be glad someone will fuck you? Come on, you have to be baiting me with that. No, if a person or group does not want to be reduced to their physique, then they have every right to do so. Some people like to be fetishized, and that is their fetish. Fine. But a large number of trans people I know get anonymous messages from creeps who are not about finding a partner who also has many features they feel sexually attracted to. They just want to use and, in many cases, abuse said person. That's not okay.
All right, two people walking around. It's so hard to switch pronouns. Translation, trans people are an inconvenience to me. Well, I mean, everybody's an inconvenience to everybody. I mean, if you have an interpersonal relationship with someone, chances are at some point they're going to inconvenience you. It doesn't matter whether they're trans or cis or fucking other kin or what the fuck ever. Doesn't fucking matter. So everyone's going to inconvenience you. And yeah, if you've known someone for a long time and you've always called them he, and then all of a sudden it changes to she, that can be difficult. You know, it's hard to take away that lifetime of experience. Why should that be so harmful? Man, you fuckers.
Because it messes even further with the psychological stability of an already at-risk individual. But I take it now that your question was rhetorical, as you already know this but just fail to give a damn because it doesn't harm you or anybody you care about, regardless of what you pretend. I mean, let's just think about it. Nearly half of all trans individuals have attempted suicide once in their life. They're not the most stable. Now, we often talk about a person's value to try and convince them away from suicide. Why? Because a person who has suicidal thoughts often self-deprecates and views themselves as being worthless or a barrier, a burden. So, to put out there, quite bluntly, that it's so hard for cis people puts these already rather unstable individuals, these at-risk demographics, at an even worse point. Well, shit. Do you think life could be a little harder for trans people? Just say sorry and follow that with, I will try to do better. Do not attempt to excuse your actions, as that is what it does. If people are under pressure to remember the correct pronoun, they do so quicker as opposed to if they constantly get told, no, it's okay. So it's not all about you, and all we are asking is for some basic consideration.
All right, now this is the last one, and it's easily the best. By best, I mean worst. It's odd because the one who's not supposed to be trans, I'm having trouble distinguishing what their fucking gender is. Anyway, they say, I don't have a problem with trans people. And the translation is, I have a problem with trans people. That's right. I mean, does this even need fucking commentary? Do I even need to comment on this? Do I even need to explain why this is wrong? That's like saying if I walk into a fuck. That's like saying if someone says I like ice cream, what they really mean is I fucking hate ice cream. I mean, like, are you fucking retarded? Are you fucking retarded, BuzzFeed? The answer is yes. Yes, you are. I'm the Amazing Atheist. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe to this channel. Peace the fuck out.
Yeah, okay, I can admit that the author didn't convey this one very well. I would have included a but followed by a pause, as that is what we find all the time with ignorant bigots. I don't have a problem with black people, but I wish they'd stop being so criminal, or I don't have a problem with atheists, but I just wish they'd stop being so militant, or I don't have a problem with homosexuals, but I just wish they'd keep their sexuality to themselves, or I don't have a problem with women, but I just wish they realized their place in society. It's a universal problem to every marginalized group where a person knows that they are about to say something undefendable, but they want to flip the problem onto the person or group they are attacking. When I go after Islam, I do have a problem with it. I don't hide that and I don't make excuses. Same for all other groups I target. Of course I have an issue. But unlike racists, misogynists and homophobes who actually do know that they are being racist, misogynistic and homophobic deep down, I don't have that, so I don't feel the need to soften the blow to try and save my ass. Much like I don't need to go, I have Muslim friends when critiquing Islam. It's irrelevant and has no effect beyond trying to soften critique of my position. But ultimately, you are getting shitty at an article for teaching people about exactly what you defend them as doing. Simply being careless. I agree, they could have done better at 1 or 2 points, and overall, I would have added a third panel to give a reasonable alternative. That would have been better, but that does not then mean the original article and the issues it raises are suddenly invalid. Humanity lives for improvement. We haven't stopped evolving both biologically and socially. We're not Islam, so how about we stop pretending that the pinnacle of human exceptionalism has existed and see how we can each better ourselves a little further, making the rest of the world better for everyone.